Hello and welcome to the Twilight Imperium Junkies Podcast. This is Rand, and today I have a special guest with me, this year's winner of the Stooge for the Throne tournament. Welcome, Kyle.
Hello.
Today we're here to talk about Stoogemastering and kind of break down the gameplay of a true Stoogemaster, and specifically we'll talk about it through the lens of the tournament final that happened this past weekend.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
So, in my opinion, I think you definitely had 5 Stooges in that game. You know, at different points to varying degrees, but ultimately, you know, Stoogemasters that win their games tend to have 5 Stooges. Going into the game, did you have a Stooge in mind? Did you find a Stooge based on, you know, early interactions? How did that unfold in early game for you?
I mean, typically, we're agnostic of the game. I try to be good friends with my neighbors and start giving them, like, freebies when it doesn't affect me at all, because it builds goodwill, and then I can use that later. So, specifically with, like, Nikki, I was really trying to find like an alliance swap early with him. Also kept reminding him about the Ghost Alliance and how he could make fighters out of that.
I also remember in round 1 you offering everyone, just make an announcement, free IFFs with a small fine print of if it's for a point you'll charge a trade good.
Yeah, this is right. I mean, that's more specific to like my Ghost strategy, but basically like if something doesn't cost me anything and it also does something that I want, even if they benefit from it, I'm happy to give it away for free because people think that they're getting value from that, and they probably are, but it also is benefiting me. So, and then later in the game when I ask them to do something related to that, they don't bat an eye. So like the if was flying around all game, but I have seen games where people refuse to use it at all because people charge for it or like it becomes this long, arduous deal. But if it starts the game as, well, I'll just give it to you for free as long as like it's not like directly earning you a point, then we can talk about it, then people are more willing to buy it. That means more wormholes on the map, and that means more access for me as well.
I totally see that. If a lot of players' play styles is to like hold value close to the chest, showing up at a table and just giving people goodies is a great way to like forge those relationships. Nathan and Speedy kind of actually touched on this idea in last week's podcast about conscious stooging, which is kind of what you're describing here. Of you are giving them value, you are giving them free things, but it's all for a specific reason and for a goal.
Yeah, I would say that, funny enough, like my profession kind of comes in here. If anyone didn't know, I'm a therapist, but there's a concept called therapeutic alliance, which is like one of the most important factors in like getting the outcomes that you're hoping for in therapy. But that's like the bond between the two people, the therapist and the client. And sometimes you have to borrow from that alliance. Essentially, once it is built up, then you can push them a little bit or ask a difficult question. Or in Twilight Imperium case, once you have a good relationship with someone, you can stab them in the side a little bit and be like, I'm so sorry, I have to do this. Let me make it up to you. And then you can continue that relationship without them burning the bridge, and then it's now mad, like mutual destruction happening. So if you can continually check in with people and also make them feel good, and when you have to hurt them, make it up to them in some way, it tends to be at the end of the game when people have to choose sides, or when they're out of the game and they have nothing else to do, they would be happy to help you.
That's such a good philosophy, and I think we definitely saw that at play during the final. For sure. You are a therapist, but if anyone watched that game, one might say you are also an actor.
I love acting.
Very theatrical. I mean, getting the win, the whole last round theater was its own thing. But really from the beginning, round 1, I remember a moment between you and I when you were popping trade and considering whether you were going to refresh me. And you were like, do I want to give you money right before you get Mechatol? And then in the end, you're like, all right, fine, just remember this. And you sniped custodians from me. So in hindsight...
I did need that $1 from you as well.
I paid for my own grave right there. You stooged me.
That's another thing you can do as well. Is like, if it makes sense to lock someone out, you just remind them that you didn't. And maybe that doesn't work every time. People start to see through that. But if you stipulate remember this, like, I'm looking out for you, even though you're going to do it anyways, it's just adding more to that narrative that you're helping them.
Really, it takes like a whole persona and facade to maintain this throughout the game. I mean, I don't think it comes naturally for a lot of players.
It had to develop over time, because when I first started playing this game, I was like more to my name, Ruthless. Like, because it was a chance for me to like do the opposite of who I am as a person and in my profession. It's like to be the meanie pants, the person who's gonna like end your game because it's better for me. But while that worked up to a point, once like the skill level increased with the players I was playing with, and it came to a lot more situations where like people could win make or decide to slay me instead of the person next in line to win, I kept getting slayed, or like people would win make against me, and that started to make me upset. So I was like, okay, I need to shift the strategy a little bit, and going from lying all the time and being a devious, ruthless person to then I will only now lie in order to, like, an obvious like lie to your face to win the game, and otherwise I'm just trying to slip in little pieces that are mostly truth but also are serving a larger purpose. But I will not backstab anyone in the middle of the game, because I think it's kind of a death sentence.
And would you say you've started to acquire more Stooges since you started shifting your playstyle?
Oh, for sure. I mean, before I was like the heel, and no one wanted to do anything, have anything to do with me, and except if they were one of those players that accepts when their back's against the wall and they will give into extortion. But then I started running into players like Henry, who was like, "All right, then do it," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to do it," but now we're both in the toilet together. The game in LA that we didn't finish comes to mind.
You were the heel, now you're the Stoogemaster. I'm glad we got to be a part of that transition. So just to go back to the Custodians play for a moment, because it wasn't just the whole trade that got you Mechatol. Karnal placed a wormhole for you that gave you access.
Yeah.
I'm really curious how that happened. Was that just like pure Stoogery? Were you utilizing the Winnu heat? Well, were you guys ride or dies from the beginning? Because you had a very, very sweet mutual Stoogery relationship going on for most of that game.
I think that there was maybe an assumption of us like being tied together or allied because we were the two non-junkies, but also Karnal and I tend to work together because the other option is us tearing each other apart.
You're too good of opponents to let each other be opponents.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I think that we think very similarly, and if I start to analyze his game and he starts to analyze mine, then we'll pick each other apart. So we just kind of, until we bump up against each other, we will help each other out if it's mutually beneficial. I don't honestly think that he thought through why I needed an alpha on the gate, which is what got me to Mechatol through Lodor. But I think that also came from the early goodie thing, because I helped him get RA when he didn't necessarily have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I connected Jolnar and him, and he got a free tech. And that was because I put the if there.
The stooging paid off.
Yeah, and then also he asked for, like, the if moved again, and he asked for it back, and I was like, sure. So since the wormholes were flying and I was just doing it for free, he felt okay to do it for free for me as well, I assume. I don't actually think that he can, like, thought it through all the way. Like, it's more obvious when you ask them to put the wormhole on Mechatol. But at that point, I'd already used my agent, so I couldn't get there that way. It had to be through the gate.
You always, as ghosts, just like in the LA game, you have an eye for how you're going to get that Custodians, and it's very impressive because you don't think of ghosts as the ones getting it, but you prove over and over again that it's so possible.
I mean, the optimal way to do it is you have to have trade. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. Or you get lucky with Diplo, I guess.
And luckily you got trade. Well, next time we're in a game together and you're ghosts and trade is getting your way, I'm going to tell the player before you. Take it, or this game is basically over.
Well, maybe sealing the fate on Mechatol, but I have lost plenty of game with the Custodian's Point, and I mean, you saw the rest of my game was, I had so little plastic. I was really trying to hang in there and not piss anyone off enough to come take my stuff, because I had like maybe one carrier in each system.
Yeah, you didn't really have wild fleets for most of the game, and I think even some plastic you put down like over Mechatol and stuff, you ended up losing like a PDS,
Yeah.
and I think you had a couple of destroyers there that ended up being lost to fleet supply. Yeah, it is wild because you didn't generate so much heat, and I do wonder if how much of that is. We knew how much of that is me going, look at how many fragments Karnal has over and over again, because I was like so paranoid of all the pulls in late game. I think you really managed to skate by with not too much heat.
I think the heat like wasn't really landing on me, yeah, because you were Winu, and Karnal was like doing so well, like he was just running ahead with like pretty strong fleet presence and all the fragments and like all that kind of stuff. And he was like, also y'all were kind of at each other, so I was just kind of sitting in the back. But also I started the game with Dark in the Skies in my hand. Like when I start with an action phase secret, I slow play it, and then I drew another action phase secret in Brave the Void, and then my third one was, I think, the 2 relic fragments, and I happened to score it that round that I got it. But I wasn't doing a lot during the rounds, and I think not getting in anyone's way, offering to help, and like clearly being not a huge force to reckon with on the table in terms of plastic, people forget about you. I also am starting to think that if you have like a mid to late game downfall of some sort, people also forget about you. So like me losing Mechatol in the middle of the game to you, people see that as like, oh, dang, he's like really cooked now.
I totally agree with that, but I think we kind of totally overlooked the fact that you were the only one who did have a Mechatol point up until that point, and that was late. That was like round 3, I believe, when I finally had taken it from you.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. And I think that if the Custodians player can sit on Mechatol for a while, sometimes people are okay with them sitting there because they're blocking future Imperial grabs, and then also add on the fact that it's a Winu. And like that's why Drago and Karnal were both like trying to work with me to help me hold it. And of course I knew that it was maybe a fool's errand to try to hold it from you. I was going to at least try.
There was nothing else I was going to do in the game but go for it.
Yeah, I know. But I thought maybe I could get like a lucky roll, and I had the Titan's Agent if I needed it, and it just didn't happen. I feel like that was one of my mistakes in the game, was instead of putting a PDS on like Malice the round before, I put a space dock there, and then like I don't think I ever used it. And I could have had an extra shot with PDS2. And then I just never had a PDS the rest of the game, even though I had PDS2.
Since then, I've been thinking that is deep commitment to keeping me off Mechatol. And I am curious now, is that genuine fear of the Winu just getting... I was at 2 points going into round 4. Is that genuine Winu fear, or were you playing into the table paranoia and kind of just giving them other things to think about? Ooh, Mechatol, when really you're just like, well, I have my bonus points, so I'm just gonna kick on over and just score my points and then win.
Yeah, I mean, it is more so that like I don't actually care about PDS2, but it is. I'm also thinking about just the value of the tech. Like it's a unit upgrade. I'm gonna get carry 2. There's 2 unit upgrades. If I need to get fighter 2, then I have the prereqs for that. So there's like a path to 3 unit upgrades that I set myself up for. To your point, I guess, if you think about it like as a magic trick, like it's distracting the audience to this other shiny thing over here while you forget that I'm still ahead in point tempo. Like we're like, we need to defend Mechatol at all costs because the Winu's going to jump up 5 points or whatever. But I'm already ahead.
I feel like it really worked, and I feel like I actually helped your situation here by I always do this, just making so much drama. Like, why won't you guys let me have Mechatal? And then just being this force of like, it's like that's the space I occupy, and it's very distracting, I think. And maybe if I was more chill about, I just don't have Mechatal and wasn't saying anything about it, maybe there would have been a little more space to look at you.
There's another lesson that I learned somewhat recently. I think like maybe in my last 5 games that I've played on stream is I have to mute myself. Like I have to play muted as much as possible because I will just start talking and I just give stuff away for no reason. Like you might have noticed throughout the game, like I was on push to talk or mute often. Like people will say something and I'll just automatically respond, and I really don't need to do that because it just gives away stuff. You need to like hold it a little closer to the chest, and I had to beat my head into the table to start doing it. And then halfway through the game, sometimes I just like I don't want to be on push to talk anymore.
I want my thoughts to be known.
Yeah.
I get it.
But there's many times where I would start to respond to someone and then realize that I'm on mute and be like, whew, good thing I was on mute.
Saved myself there. Actually, I noticed a couple of these moments, and it's related to maybe what I consider the biggest Stooge grab of the game, which was the round 4 Ghost Hero play and the deal that Matt approached you with.
Yes.
I went back and watched the stream and got to hear what this sidebar in a separate room was, and it was wild to hear Matt pitch a path to slaying your support partner, Karnal, and you convincing him that you should receive his support for the throne to do this move because you, and I quote, take support swaps seriously.
That was a pretty bold-faced lie there.
I was baffled. It was clear Matt was very excited about this big brain move, and it was a big brain move. It was a really cool way to move Mechatal on all his PDS adjacent to Karnal's home system, where he could either take the home or stop Karnal from getting 5 fleet by shooting when Karnal activates to build. It was this great play. But you casually mentioning that the cost would be a point when no one benefits more than you, because you would lose a point if you had to slay. My jaw was on the floor watching that exchange, and ultimately, I mean, that point is what gave you a path to the action phase win next round.
Mm-hmm. Matt approached me with this, and then he originally was like trying to whisper me some things. He's like, I have this plan, we can use your hero, and I mean, the start of this like brainchild, I guess, that I had came from like a pretty real place. Like I don't like to spend my like most important tools on something that doesn't directly benefit me, or like if I need to use it. Like the Ghost Hero is an incredible stage 2 accomplisher, right? And at the rate that I was going to be 5th in speaker order, so I had to shake something up. And then I could tell the desperateness in Matt's voice that he was really excited about this, and he also like really needed this to happen. I have interacted with players who actually do take support swaps seriously. Like they will never break them. They will never try to turn against their support partner. But until I need to, I will pretend like I think that too. My support partner, in a lot of ways also, like it is sometimes true that if I can't win and my support partner and I have a good relationship, I'm happy if they win. You know, in Karnal's case, if we were both on the same tempo, that maybe would have been true. But I could see that he had like 3 relic pulls and he was going to win in round 4. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do about this. And Karnal and I were messaging back and forth the whole time because, interestingly, I guess throughout the whole game too, Karnal and I were like evaluating our positions in like a very objective way. I was like, I think that you have it. And I was asking him about leadership because we were all waiting on him to use it, right? We were all getting sold out. I asked a few times if he could pop it and I could help him do something, or I won't get in your way, or all this other stuff. And he was like, I don't know. I don't think it's the right play. And I was like, yeah, I agree with you. I think the correct play is to stall everyone out. So just do that, pull your relics, and I think you got it. Like, GG. And if you don't hit it, then we'll go to the next round and we'll see what happens. Like, that was very sincere. I can't do anything about it, and I'm not going to just like stop you if I don't have a chance. And then Matt messaged me, and I was like, okay, this might be something. And I've learned in the past from past games that like when you have your back against the wall and it feels like you can't do anything to change the speaker order or your tempo, someone who has a floating support, that's who you need to go talk to. And so Matt brings this up, and it just happened to work out that you guys got into a scuffle over Mechatol, and there was a free support. And I think that I made a pretty good case to Matt that, like, this is one of my best assets, my hero. I could score a 2-pointer with this, and I'm giving it to you to put you in a really good position to win next round. You're going to be first in speaker order. You have Mechatol in the corner, and no one can reach it, which is not true because obviously the if. Also, you're stopping the person who's going to win right before you in round 4. And you could potentially take Shard. And it also puts you next to Primor for the Diplo Shard take. So there's like a lot of good things that were going for him. So it felt pretty easy to slide in, and I need your support. And I think even when I rewatched that conversation, I did tell him it puts me on action phase round 5 path. Like, I didn't lie about that. But I did casually slip in if I did have some action phases. I was sitting on 2 at the point.
I want to ask you honestly now. Tell me after the fact. If there was no support, would you have just done the move regardless if support was off the table? Had Matt approached you with this way of slaying Karnal?
That's a good question. I would ask for something at least, but I wouldn't necessarily say no because it was such a good way to stop Karnal from all that. But if that was the case, I would have made sure that Matt actually took his home system. Like, I wouldn't burn that resource just for him to not do it. I would have been more in the middle of their deal, and I tried to hold back as much as I could because I didn't want to interrupt them.
Right, which actually that is kind of what reminded me of this moment, because you made only 2 comments, and they are both so telling of how much your take support swap seriously is a load of baloney. Because your first comment happened when Matt was starting to negotiate with Karnal about like, ooh, I get this relic and maybe I don't take your home and you pop this, and if it's not shard, I don't take your home. You kind of intervened being like, this is kind of the point of all these moves. Like, the point was to stop Karnal. Now you're kind of like getting away with something else. Mm-hmm. So, indicating that you do want to stop Karnal. And then after Karnal finally drew a relic, and it was
Obsidian.
Not shard, but obsidian, Matt was like, okay, good. You're good.
I was like, it's still a point.
Yeah, you under your breath, you kind of muttered like, oh, can we just like pretend that was a point? It was just so good how like overlooked your straight up lie was in that moment of like, yeah, your support partner, take it so seriously. And you are sitting there in the corner being like, come on, take the home.
Yeah. I mean, of course I want him to take the home because then I wouldn't have to think about Karnal all next round not pulling another relic.
Yes.
Everyone shot depended on Karnal missing. And he had so many pulls. I was messaging Karnal because I told him that I wasn't going to just block his win if I didn't have a chance, right? But then the support thing came up and I was like, and I think at one point you were the commentators, or maybe it was you, were like, why are yellow and white messaging right now when we're trying to slay white? And that was to say, like, look, I got support. That was my path out of being stuck behind you. I hope you understand. And he was like, yeah, I get it. I mean, why would you not do that? So those were those conversations.
There were a lot of conversations. You were whispering a lot, which actually brings me to a little tangent, and we'll get back to the game in a second. For a minute there, Henry and I were discussing having this year's Stooge for the Throne tournament be totally whisper-free. We didn't end up going that route, but seeing as how the champion utilized whispers this game, I'm wondering what your take is on just like whispers in general, because without them, you kind of have to have everyone be on board with like the whispers you're telling and the pictures you're painting, as opposed to being able to like isolate people and be like, yes, this is this truth, and isolate someone else. And would you have any thoughts on that?
I have lots of thoughts on whispers. I think I prefer, like, when I play in person, I don't like side conversations and whispers. I think that it slows the game down. It makes it like a different game. And I like playing with whispers, but I feel like it's almost like a different game. And online is like similar. where like you said, you could isolate people and tell them these different things and do gambits and all that stuff. And it's like just a different experience. So I like both. I think that in this format, when we're doing Stooge for the Throne, it makes a lot of sense to have whispers. But I think that also there's a whole new dynamic you introduce when you don't allow whispers. Because like you said, like it has to be this outward performance and people have to agree with you. You have to make your case. It's more of like this ongoing conversation with the table rather than like connecting these threads behind the scenes. And of course, if I have the tools to whisper, I'm going to use them. Like that is one of my strengths, is whispering each person throughout the game. And sometimes that affords you the ability to play both sides of one thing. Like, I wasn't doing it at the time, but I have before when I think one of the commentators was saying, I was selling you Mechatol and also working with Karnal to stop you from taking Mechatol or something like that, which I wasn't doing in this case, but I have done that before.
So it sounds like you would agree that maybe whispering is a good tool for Stoogemastering in an online TI environment.
Yes, it is 100%. It is one of the best tools for Stoogemastering because you can do things without other people seeing. Once other people start scrutinizing your deals or becoming involved, that it often falls apart.
Which actually is an argument you used at the end of this game. The two most shocking things for me this game was Matt giving you a support to do a move that just benefits you so greatly. And the argument you made for Karnal when you were convincing Drago to give you the win, basically, and unbeknownst to him, you told Karnal not to get involved in the conversation because you didn't get involved in the conversation he had with Matt. And Karnal sat back down after that.
Yep.
And I was shocked. This was a Stoogemaster versus Stoogemaster moment, and the one Stoogemaster came out on top, and that was you, Kyle.
I think that the argument, it didn't really hold up if you looked at it too closely.
Yeah.
But I think it was the leverage I had on Drago more than anything that got him to agree to it. But Karnal was doing anything he could to get in the middle and be like, let me help you instead of you helping him. He could offer that all he wants, but it was all related to like Drago being reliant on my wormhole placements to score the 2-pointer.
Yeah, I think for Karnal too, though, if Karnal's win was on lock on the 1, I think Karnal could have made a case to Drago about how it's pointless to do this deal. Whether or not you hosed Drago out of the 2-pointer or not would be pointless because it's just choosing between you or Karnal at that point.
That is true.
I think that is an unfortunate consequence for Karnal playing it really close to the chest and, deflecting the heat all game, deflecting as much as they could,
Yeah.
It was a hot game.
And my counterpoint at one point to Drago, I'm going to keep... Oh, this is my justification for him not destroying my carrier. I was like, I need to keep my board presence as much as possible in case this goes to the next round. Like I'm gonna keep playing this game as if it hasn't ended yet until it does. Which I stand by that philosophy. Obviously I knew that wasn't true in this case because I was about to win. But that philosophy also dissuades they have a win on the table. It was pretty obvious Karnal was gonna win on the 1. But I had to not push that point at all. I needed to be like, there's a seed of doubt that Karnal can win on the 1. There's also a seed of doubt that Nikki's winning on the 2.
Yeah.
And that means that you're up next. You're 3.
When that round started, you actually said, hey, Drago, let's talk as the 2 people scoring last. And I was like, Kyle, you have 2 secrets in your hand? And you're like, yeah, it would be great if they were scoreable. Which, lying about that is like, okay, everyone does that. But branding yourself as last place when you're actually like pretty much first in line to win, that's unhinged.
I had to control my heart rate throughout the whole round because I could have scored my secrets in multiple instances, but I was like, I really need to wait.
Let's talk about the last round for people who haven't seen this tournament final game, because there was a lot of point scoring in that last round that led to your win and a lot of deals you made between me and you and Drago. Mm-hmm. So walk us through your Stoogemaster plan for that final round?
In the previous round, I just scored a public and got support from Matt to go from 6 to 8. So we're going into the last round. I'm at 8, 5th pick. It comes around to me, and the strategy cards are like politics, tech, and trade, construction maybe. And at this point, if I had a status phase, obviously I picked the 3. Like, that just makes sense. Even if I had an action phase, maybe I should have picked the 3. But to further build the narrative that, like, I need to work with someone. And also, the other thing is, I needed anti-mass and assault cannon. So I needed 2 techs.
You took the 7.
Well, I guess I'm taking the 7, and I'll work with you, Drago. We need to stop 2 to 3 people in front of us. So, like, we're going to have to work together. And setting up for we're going to have to give each other a shot. And then, because I was sitting on the 2 action phase secrets, which could get me to 10 immediately, but I didn't have fleet logistics, my thought was, if I scored one of them, the table immediately looks at me and then does everything they can to stop that second one. So I had to kind of wait it out, people to burn their tools and slays on the people in front first, so that when it was time for me to do mine, they couldn't do anything. So that's like kind of why I waited around. And I've done the opposite before when I'm just trying to go for the rush win, and it almost always fails because people see it. I think I almost got lost in the sauce when you were asking me how you could help with my secret, and Drago was asking me, and I told you all both that I had Brave the Void, and then I went for your home system to do Dark in the Skies, and I had told both of you what my secret was. Like, I couldn't undo that, so we all knew what it was, and I was surprised that you didn't start saying more things, to be honest. But I guess at that point, maybe you felt like you were out of it. What was going on there for you?
What happened was, so the deal we worked out actually gave me a path to win on the 6 in status phase. Mm-hmm. It was a very complicated deal, and it actually enabled me to score the 2 for when you moved your flagship to my home, which when I invited you to bring your flagship, I didn't even say my home. I said anywhere in my slice, my quote-unquote slice, so that I could be adjacent to your home system with the Delta wormhole. Another part of the deal was you letting me have Malice because I'd drawn the Wormhole Nexus secret that round. Mm-hmm. And that was the last point to get me to 10 in the status phase. When I moved the last of my ships to the Wormhole Nexus, I totally forgot that I helped Matt find a good retreat spot through the B-hole when I went to take Mechatol. And so that extra flagship was just chilling and just demolished me out of Malice. And so missing out on that secret meant that there was just 0 ways for me to get to 10. My game was capped at 9. So that's really a long way of answering your question, but the bottom line is I lost my shot and didn't really feel the need to meddle in other people's business. I think my only comments at that point were chiming in for entertainment purposes. I knew you had Brave the Void. I was kind of just watching. I was really confused because I was like, what does Drago think is happening? And you were kind of talking about stalling throughout the round and waiting for the right time, but I'm really impressed at how you kind of utilized that time in terms of a social dynamic, because you were buttering up Drago throughout the round. You were making moves and saying things like, to show my trust in you, I'll do this. You were really, really building this relationship, and it paid off. But can you tell us more about your whisperings with Drago? Because it seems like you asked him to move a ship to the asteroid field so you could go for your secret, which you did and won.
Yeah, so for most of the game, he had a dreadnought sitting in that asteroid field, so I wasn't super pressed to do it early. I didn't think that he was going to move it, and obviously I was like watching it like a hawk, but then he finally moved it, and I was like, oh god, I have to come up with something now. I have to like show some cards. That's when I said, hey, it looks like you have one of your 2 stage 2 planets for having a planet adjacent to someone else's home. I can help you get the second one, set you up for the 2-pointer so that you can win on the 3. Would you be willing to help me with the secret? And he was like, sure. So I said, all right, can you send a cruiser into the asteroid field? He was like, yeah. But he didn't ask what it was at first. And then he starts to become suspicious and is like, tell me what this is about. Like, this is all based on trust. I need you to tell me what the secret is. And I said, okay, it's Brave the Void. He was like, I'm sorry, buddy, I can't let you do that. I have a way to block it. And I was like, oh, damn, so much for trust. Like, kind of throwing that back at him a little bit. I was like, okay, so, like, what is your recourse here? Like, how are you blocking it? Because it's already activated. And I was trying to understand if it was a skill retreat or if it was Scuttle. Because Scuttle completely invalidated my whole plan. You could just blow it up, right? But if it was skill retreat, I had already had the insurance for that with Assault Cannon. So, of course, I don't say that out loud or tell that to him. So I asked him to show me the card.
But you did show him your hand because you're like, would it make you feel better if I told you I had no sapos?
Yeah, well, I made sure for him to show me the skill retreat. He did. And then I said, okay, well, what if we did it like more Gambit style? At this point as well, like, I don't think I had scored the thing in your home system yet. We were still like just talking about this thing. He was just worried I had 2 action phases, which is true. And I said, okay, I'll send my single carrier from Lodor. Then I'll roll a die, and I'll hit on 9 or 10, and that will be my secret. It's against your cruiser, which is hitting on 8, 9, or 10. So that seems pretty fair to me. And then I could make sure to lock in your 2-pointer. Then he was like, I don't know, man. Like, he was like very hesitant about it. And that's when I was like, look, I don't have a sabotage. You always have the skill retreat in your pocket. You control this. I'm asking you to give me a shot, and I will give you your shot. Like, if I don't get it, I don't get a win in the action phase or whatever, then you're going to win on the 3. It's the story I'm telling. Then I thought we made it through, and then there's this last hiccup that happens where he goes to kill the carrier. And I was like, shit. Because that was my 3rd ship on the board that was unlocked. I had the stuff in your home system, and then 2 carriers in my home, and the 1 ship on the door. And I did 3 ships in order to Assault Cannon to block the skill retreat. Because Assault Cannon happens first as the active player. They can't skill retreat. That was the hardest point for me, where I thought I had already lost. That he was going to kill the carrier. It made a lot of sense. I don't know if he saw that specifically. I had to kind of deduce that if he saw that it was Assault Cannon or not. It turns out it was not. He was just trying to make sure that he had insurance and had something on the alpha as well. And I was doing my best to convince him with all the logical arguments that I could that I could give you the if, you can move it there.
That's also when Karnal chimed in around that point.
Yeah.
Like, if Kyle really doesn't want you to kill that carrier, maybe you should kill that carrier?
I mean, Karnal's 100% right. He just didn't see that it was Assault Cannon, and I wasn't going to advertise that.
Of course.
And that's also when I almost revealed it, and I said, no, I don't feel good about this. Because I knew that as soon as I talked out the whole plan, Karnal or another player would go over to my sheet, see I had Assault Cannon and Anti-Mass, and be like, oh, he has 3 ships on the board. I mean, he'll win immediately. So that's why I stopped talking. That was a proud moment for me that I kept my mouth shut when I usually wouldn't.
I mean, that was the tell. I think that's when people who are still invested in the game should have really, really pushed Drago into killing that carrier. But that's where you surpassed everyone in your Stooge mastery. Your argument won. And
I think that the linchpin in that was that Drago was looking at Karnal's fleet on, I think it was perimeter, and because he almost burned Dominus to try to slay me, right? And I think that also added to the thing there, because like Karnal lost a point. He activated my home system and brought himself down to 8, so he had to score 2 secrets or a public and a secret to win, or the 2-pointer, and it didn't look like he was going to get the 2-pointer because my home system was one of those spots. And then he would have to score 2 secrets. He had 1 token left. So it did legitimately look like Karnal wasn't going to be able to close it out. So, like, Drago's chances were soaring up. We were unclear about Nikki because Nikki did have the 2-pointer as well. Well, he didn't have Hope Sent. He just had ships above it. So he had one of the 2. Legitimately, Drago could have won on the 3. So now Drago's thinking, what do I need to do to protect my win? And because Karnal had 1 token left, I saw that he had 1 token left, and I was like, if you are worried about Karnal going to a spot to score the 2-pointer, you should block the alpha. instead of blocking Lodor, I can leave my ship there and block it. And then you can send your dreadnought to the other alpha that blocks Karnal's access to the alphas. And that locks it up for you. Like, we both get our shot here now. And he was like, you're right, I'll do that. So that was like the one detail I noticed that luckily locked it in. And then I had to send the message to him saying, I'm so sorry I stooged you. Here comes my 3 ships.
It's a tough position for Drago. I mean, that was the win on the 3, and what are you going to do, you know? It's the assault cannon, the sneaky assault cannon. I'm sure it's going to haunt Drago for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm in an async game with him now. I'm sure he trusts me implicitly.
Yes, make some deals based on total non-binding trust. It'll work out perfectly. Well, that's a good recap on the juicy, spicy final that happened. Kyle, do you have any words of wisdom from Stoogemaster to, us Stooges aspiring to be like you one day? Being able to have people hand us supports and put cruisers in systems where we might brave the void and invite you into our home systems to darken our skies. How do you do it? What do we do? Help us.
I would say most generally that if you're ever feeling stuck or you're trying to get someone to do something, you need to take yourself out of your shoes first, figure out what really matters to them or what they're trying to accomplish, and then work yourself into that. So for you were behind, you were starting to lose hope, and there was no way you're going to score this 2-pointer without someone to help you. Surprise, surprise, I show up, I'm like, I can help you score this 2-pointer. And you don't have to actually do a lot.
And get Mechatol, by the way.
Yeah, and get Mechatol.
You helped me get Mechatol, too. It was a 4-to-1 point trade that we had if I'd gotten Malice.
Yeah. So, like, I look at that and I'm like, this is putting her in a position to win. Obviously, she wants that. And in doing so, I've inextricably tied up my chances with that. So you're going to go along with that if it's going to help you swing 4 points. I mean, who wouldn't? And I'm also boosting myself up in a position to score those points. And it's the same thing with Drago. Like, I was his ticket to win, and in doing that, he had to help me win. So I would just say, look for how people are trying to score points and try to involve yourself in that in some way. And if you can work your points into there, that's the best way to do it.
That is some wise advice. It is very easy in TI to get tunnel vision in your own game and focus on your own points and your own moves, but that is definitely an elevated way of playing to kind of empathize with the other players and really utilize their own desires against them.
Yep, Matt really wanted to slay Karnal, so I worked myself in there too.
Oh, too good. Well, thanks for joining today, Kyle. Congratulations again on the win. We have a new Stoogemaster for the year. Welcome to the club, the throne room, hanging out, you and Bannerspear. Too cool for school.
Whoop whoop.
An epic tale from last year's Stooge tournament, support partners Kyle and Karnal, an elimination against Karnal to slay both of you, to this year's epic championship face-off where either of you could have taken it. Congrats again, Kyle.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
It was a pleasure.
May we stooge again.
We stooge again, you Stoogemaster again, and I look forward to our next game together.
Yeah, I'll be your stooge this time.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Twilight Imperium Junkies Podcast.
If you like what we do and want to support the show, check out our Patreon, where amongst other things, you can vote on topics for future episodes.
Keep up with the TI Junkies series by subscribing on YouTube.
Until next time, keep stooging, or maybe don't.
Unless you're my stooge.